you know already, let's talk about the mid-year book tag. Hey everybody, my name is Sophie, the Bookish Floor, and welcome back to my channel. As I said, today we are doing the mid-year freakout tag or the mid-year book tag, however you want to call it. But this is the part of the year where we review things that we have already read, things we want to read, and all that good stuff. So first of all, let me tell you that I did get the mid-year tag from CCM Book. This is a blog online where you can find all of the book tags that are out there. CC just compile all of the book tags, so whenever you have an idea or you don't know actually what video to do and you want to maybe do a fun book tag, you can go to her blog and check out whatever book tags are around. I'm gonna leave the blog link in the description if you guys want to go ahead and check it out. But as I said, let's go ahead and get started with my mid-year review. And you know what, guys? I think that for this part, I'm actually gonna wear my glasses because I'm reading up from my computer. Okay, so the first question is the best book you read so far. That's a little bit of a complicated question. I haven't found like my utmost favorite book of all time this year, or one that has captivated me. Like last year, I know it was How High We Go into the Dark. It was the first book that I read in 2023, and it stayed at the top, like nothing could beat it. This year, I was expecting the same thing, and it wasn't, so that might be like my most disappointed read of 2024 so far. I'm not sure. And I have found great books, and I have found 5-star books, but those 5-star books haven't been like all encompassing. Like, I gave them 5 stars because of the genre or the subject matter or something in particular that I love, but it wasn't like the full spectrum for me. So one of them, it's gonna be I can't believe I'm saying that. One of them is gonna be Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Now, I know, and this is not just because it's popular right now or whatever. I have always read Regency. If you have seen my collection on top, like all of my bookshelves on top are all Regency books. And I really liked it, but I have heard a lot of problematic things about Bridgerton, so I like the show, but I didn't necessarily wanted to read the books. But I'm really a big fan of Nicola Coughlan, and I wanted to know more about Pollen, and so I decided to read the book before the season came out, and it was so surprising. I really liked it. Obviously, there's still a couple of things that are problematic. But because one, I knew the timeline where it was written, so I took that into consideration. I know that these books were published in the early 2000s. Early 2000s were still pretty toxic when it came to toxic masculinity, the way we viewed women and bodies and things like that. So although it wasn't that long ago, it was 25 years ago almost. So yeah, there's a lot of problematic themes still going on, but it's not the whole of the story. And a lot of things that are considered, again, also kind of problematic are kind of staples of the romance genre and also staples of Regency. And although you can say, well, she didn't live in the Regency era, and for example, Jane Austen doesn't have those necessarily problematic tropes, you can kind of take all that into consideration and just kind of like the story for what it was. And for me, for what it was a 5-star. As you guys know, I don't really like romance that I read. Usually I give it 2-3 stars maybe, and for me it was really surprising that I liked it this much. And again, because I'm thinking about the time when it was written and the time frame that it's supposed to be reflected on the story, so that's why certain things that are not you can suspend your disbelief. I don't want to keep saying they are problematic because some things are minor that wouldn't happen anymore, that are not necessarily like toxic or problematic in the sense that we understand right now, but certain things we wouldn't read on the page, or if we do read it on the page now in a modern romance, it doesn't work because it's not the rules of society of the time. So again, it really surprised me. I can't believe I'm saying that, but Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, if you're like if you like romance or if you like Regency romance, I think this might be a good book for you. Now, when it came to other genres, another book that I really liked, and I gave it 5 star, was The Last Cuentista, but it's not, again, not necessarily one of my favorite. I think all of them kind of captures something that I like, but not, again, not all of it. And The Last Cuentista is a little bit sci-fi. Well, it's very sci-fi. It's about a girl whose family is selected to go into outer space and create a new civilization because the earth is being destroyed. And then she wakes up, and what she thought, her mission was, is no longer there. She wakes up like hundreds of years later, and the people who are in charge now are changing like the whole mission and everything, and she kind of has to figure out how she is gonna either go with the new plan or try and maintain her beliefs, her roots, and what she believes humanity is. And she's a child, so also, so that makes it a bit more complex. I really like the story. It talks a lot about, it's very grounded in humanity, in the immigrant experience. I think also in believing what's good and what makes us human. And then you get all that plot of sci-fi, so I really liked it. Not necessarily one of like my favorite book of all time, but definitely one of my favorite that I have read this year. And then another one that I really like, that I would actually, if I had to put them like in order of liked, probably Romancing Mr. Bridgerton would be number one, and then it would be Warriors, which is women mythology versus females. And this is a non-fiction book that collects the story of different females throughout history, and it collects their real story. It is telling you the reality of who they were, not through a male gaze, not through being the victim or the villain, simply who they actually were and what people believe them to be, and what people made them to be in order to serve the narrative that they were trying to tell at that particular moment, whether it was because of war or whatever. So I think that book is very important. I think that if you are reading a lot of female authors and a lot of female stories, that would be a great book to have. But also, if you're a creative and you need ideas of different stories of women, that is also a great book to have. And I think that the last two books that I'm gonna talk about is gonna be The City We Became, which is again another sci-fi, really weird superhero story about how regular people in different boroughs of New York started taking the identity of the city in order to protect it from an evil that is trying to come and take over. So that was really weird and fun, and it was just an adventure. It was like watching a superhero movie that was really well made. So and it had a lot of, again, humanity in it, so I really liked it. And then the other one is Woman Eating, and it's about this is literary fiction, psychological horror. It's a little bit, again, of a weird book where you have this girl, this young woman who is a vampire, and for the first time she has to fend for herself in society, get her own food, figure out how to move around society without being suspected of, but also figuring out how she's gonna feed herself and take care of herself because her mother has always taken care of her. And it parallels a lot of mother-daughter relationship conflict, a lot of conflict with her body, with the food, with different things that happen to females, and they encapsulate the female experience. So, and also being biracial, and that experience within the world that she lives in, also in this fantasy world of vampirism. There are a lot of parallels with realistic topics, so I think that's really a wonderful book to explore. I would suggest checking trigger warnings because It could be a lot from EDs to parental verbal abuse, things like that. So just make sure that you check the trigger warning if you're gonna read that book. Okay, I think I talked a lot about my favorite books of the year. Let's go ahead and go to second question. Okay, the best sequel I read so far, I think it's gonna have to be Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, although it's not a sequel. Definitely, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton is the only sequel that I have technically read, so it's gonna be my favorite, but also it was one of my favorite books. So I already told you everything I loved about it, so I think I'm not gonna go into it, but yeah. Favorite sequel I read so far, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Okay, new release that I haven't read, but I really wanna read. Now, this was just announced, and this is why I'm wearing this today. I know it's not gonna come out until next year, and then the year after that, the film. But it's gonna have to be Sunrise on the Reaping. That is gonna be Haymit's story from the Hunger Games. I really love that universe. I feel like, I know it's YA or maybe young adult. I know it's dystopian, and I know it's kind of sci-fi, but a lot of the things that they have, a lot of the themes that they talk about, we live through them right now if you think about it, and that is really scary, but also I feel like it opens up your mind to see the world in a different way. And I think that I know that a lot of people didn't like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I really do think that they showed us how evil is made, not born. And I think that is something that people are still kind of missing the point. There's still a lot of people out there in real life where we can see that they are becoming evil and they are being made, and no one is doing anything to stop them because they don't believe that they are evil. And how can people in this position of this religion or of this education background or whatever be like that? But it's an all-encompassing, again, a life experience that made them that way, and we need to be more aware of that and be smarter in our choices in life, whether it'll be people we hang around with or governments we elect. So I think that, I mean, Susan Collins always has something to say, and I'm sure she's gonna have something to say about Sunrise on the Reaping, and I think it's gonna ring a bell. So yeah, I think I'm really excited about that. The next one is the most anticipated new release that is coming out in the second half of the year. And I think for me, honestly, I don't follow a lot of authors and like the continuation. I don't start a lot of series that are ongoing and where I have already read a lot and I'm waiting for the next book. I usually try to start series once everything is out so that I'm not waiting for it for years. So there's not a lot that I'm anticipating. There's also a lot of authors that I'm reading for the first time, so I'm not sure if I want to read them or read from them again. But one that I really want to read because I've seen the cover and I want to see the story, and I think it's gonna be a little scary and a little fun and a little maybe a bit more of a literary fiction, although that's not the main genre. I think it might go that way, I'm not sure, but that is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. There's something about it that is just captivating. I know the cover has a lot to do with it, and obviously I've read Macbeth before, and I really like those stories. So yeah, it's always interesting to kind of see the story told from a different character. So I'm really I'm looking forward to reading that one. Okay, my biggest disappointment of the year has to be Shark Heart. This was by no means a bad book. This was a good book. I think I give it 3.5 or 4 stars. But for me, for my case, I really thought that it was kind of changed my world. A lot of people really loved it. A lot of people said it cried, that it was really deep. And yeah, I found it sad at points, and I found it that sad. I didn't find it that great. It actually felt cartoonish to me at certain points, so it didn't really allow me to feel sad because of that. And let me just start by saying that cartoons can be really emotional. I just went to see Inside Out 2 and I cried at that point. So the way that they were doing a particular part felt very children's story, and like in a fun, quirky way, and not in a deep, sad way. And I didn't feel like it was that deep. Like the topics were deep. The way it was written about, or the way that it was handled, I felt like it was very, for me, surface level. Like nothing we haven't heard before, nothing we haven't read before, and it didn't go deeper into each of the characters. And I think for me the problem was that the story really is divided into three parts of a certain life, and not one part of a life where it's exploring a deeper way. So it didn't quite hit for me the way that I think the intent was. And I know a lot of people did enjoy it a lot, and did hit kind of a different level. So I don't know if the problem is me, or maybe I've read too much of that particular genre and I was expecting even more. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a disappointment simply because I wanted more and I didn't get it. So yeah, that would be for me Shark Heart. My biggest surprise, I think I'm just gonna have a thing here. My biggest surprise, again, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. I expected like a bland romance filled with tropes, filled with like people that I didn't necessarily care about. And that could have been my experience if I read it for the first time. I'm not sure, because I read it with the actors of the series already in my mind, their voices already in my head. So there was like a build up right there. And again, this book is not even the first one. So if I had read the books, I would still feel the same way, because we have been hearing about them for a while now. But I was just a surprise. I thought it was great. I thought the angst were great. I was kicking my feet. I was giggling. I was screaming at the audiobook when things were getting too intense. So yeah, usually I just listen to them and do something else. And in this case, I just had to be like focused and reacting. And I couldn't do something else because I was reacting to the book so much. So yeah, that was my biggest surprise of the year so far. Next one is favorite new author, whether it's new to me or a debut. And I think one of my favorite new authors is gonna be Barbara Kingsolver. I read Prodigal Summer. I actually haven't heard anyone talked about this book. I read it for, I think it was for January. I was looking for books with the theme of new beginnings, new life, all that. And this book was suggested. I read the blurb. I liked it. I picked it. That's usually how I pick my books. Instead of like seeing recommendations from other people, I kind of pick a theme and then research which books kind of fill that theme. Whether it's like a background theme of the author or a specific topic that I want to read about. And this one came out and I read it and I was captivated the whole time. And again, this is another book that told 3 different stories, kind of like Shark Heart, but it was so deep in each of those stories. So I was so invested on every single one of those characters. There was not one single character that I didn't care about. Even the secondary characters, you knew they had a purpose of being there. And I really liked that story, or those stories. They're all together. They're all taking place around the same town, in the same town. And they all have a lot to say about different stages of life and different ways of being, again, women, and figure out things for ourselves. And yeah, I just thought it was a wonderful read. Very deep, even though it's divided into 3, and a lot to think about. And yeah, I just thought it was great. And so I think she's gonna be one of my favorite authors. I know she's also in Demon Copperhead, which is a retelling of David Copperfield. I know a lot of people talked about that particular book. I know that a lot of people maybe found it difficult or didn't like it, but I think she could be one of my favorite. I want to keep reading from her and see what else I like, because I think she explored themes. She can explore themes in a very deep, meaningful way, without the book being a million pages long, or without taking us on a lot of tangents. So I really like her writing. My newest favorite character. Let me see what I've read. Okay, I think I figure out which ones are my three favorite characters. So one of them is gonna be Penelope. She's like my fave. I Penelope stan. I'm a Nicholas stan. I will love her forever. So yeah, I think Penelope is one of my new favorite characters that I've read about. But from just books that I've read, the other one is the little girl from Spy Family. I'm kind of blinking on her name, but I thought she was hilarious. I really enjoyed that graphic novel. I'm not a huge fan of the medium. I find it difficult for me to get into the story, but whenever she was talking, I just couldn't help but actually see her and listen to her, and I thought she was hilarious. And then the other one, I think it's gonna be probably Petra from The Last Cuentista, the little girl who is sent into space. I think she's smart, she's funny, she's creative, she's resourceful, she's amazing. So I think Petra is another one of my favorite characters. I have read a lot of heavy books, so asking me which ones are my favorite characters when it's so heavy, like their interactions are so heavy, I think I need to kind of read a little bit lighter topics in the next half of the year to see who else. Right now, I'm also liking Oliver from Most Ardently. I'm reading that one right now, and I'm really liking Oliver Bennett. So yeah, those would be my favorite new characters. Okay, next one is a book that made me cry. A book that made me cry. I don't cry a lot with books, but definitely there was a part on Most Ardently, the one that I'm listening right now, which is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, where Oliver Bennett is talking to Mr. Bennett, and man, that conversation just got me. I'm not gonna say what it is. Most Ardently, it's a take on Darcy and Elizabeth's story, but in this case, Elizabeth is a transgender boy or male whose name is Oliver Bennett, and there is a very important conversation between Mr. Bennett and Oliver that was really beautifully handled and moving, and I really love that, and it did made me shed a tear. Okay, a book that made me happy. Girl, that's a difficult one because, like I said, I've been reading a lot of heavy things. I think that I haven't been reading a lot of happy books, and the ones that I have read are not like that like amazing. But I guess again, maybe just for the fun, for the giggles, for the kicks, because of the lightheartedness of it, and because you know that ending is gonna be a happy one. I think it's gonna be Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, simply because it was a good time. I had a good time, a fun time reading it. Favorite book to film adaptations. I think I'm gonna add like TV adaptations too. I've seen a lot this year. I saw Bridgerton. I don't remember if it was this year, Shadow and Bone that came out. Maybe it was last year. I saw that Three Body Problem, and I really liked that Three Body Problem. Made me want to go ahead and read the book. So I think I'm going to say that one. That's going to be like my favorite adaptation for now. Again, I love Bridgerton also. But there was, because I read the book, there was a lot of things that I can kind of pick apart. I haven't read the Three Body Problem, so I don't know how much they changed, but I really like the show, and hopefully it'll continue, and I'm really looking forward to reading the book. Okay, the next one is the most beautiful book I've gotten, and this one is actually same as Galila Denson. If you don't follow her, go ahead and follow her. She's so much fun, and she's so smart and so witty, and loves reading too, and loves reading all kinds of books. But I found this at a local thrift shop, and then like a month later, she posted a video where she said she found this book also. Never heard anybody talk about it. I grabbed it because I love the cover. and I thought it was beautiful. I also love the inside. There's like a couple of illustrations and color illustrations. And I think this is like a middle grade book about a girl who is looking for like the man in the moon who can grant her like a wish to maybe be a bit more prosperous with her family. And again, what are the odds of nobody ever talking about this book and then one of my favorite booktubers having it and thinking it's the most beautiful, and I too think it's the most beautiful. So yeah, this is definitely gonna be that one. This is where the moon mountain meets, I'm sorry, this is where the, and this book is called Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, and this is by Grace Lynn. How beautiful is this? So yeah. Okay, the next one is books that I need to read by the end of the year. Well, pretty much every single one in this shelf, or at least the ones that have already added to like past TBRs or TBRs that are upcoming. I definitely need to finish Kim Ji-young, born 1982. I've been reading it for months, since March. And this is a tiny book. I can sit down and read it in an hour, but yeah, I haven't done that. And then I also want to read, obviously, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. I want to read, probably for summer win, I'm going to read Mexican Gothic and The Woman in Coven 10. Where's the other one? I know there was another one that's left. The Only Survivor. So I'm probably going to keep those together so I can read them for summer win. I also want to read To Kill a Kingdom. Una Out of Order. With the Fire on High from Elizabeth Acevedo. And yeah, I think those are ones that I want to read like most urgently that I have here physically. So that's it for the book tag. That's my review of what I've been reading and what I've been liking and maybe not liking so much for the last 6 months. If you guys are doing this book tag, go ahead and put it on the comments. And if you want a link there to your videos, that would be great, so we can all see what we're all reading and we're all liking. Have you read any of the books that I mentioned or any of the ones that I want to read? Let me know what you thought of them. It really helps me out a lot. It tells YouTube what you guys want to see from me. Make sure that you subscribe and also click on that little bell so you can get notified every time I upload a video. I upload every Wednesdays in Spanish and every Fridays in English. Remember, you can also put those comments right there. And if you want to help me out a bit more, on the descriptions you have all my social media and all the ways that you can support this channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to keep reading and keep blooming, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!